Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reach Films podcast. My name's Jeff Fagan, and I'm joined by Guy Pigden from the Savage Filmmaker. Guy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I'm getting a little bit of that interference again. I don't know what from.
Is it still coming through now?
Yeah, it's like almost sounds like rubbing.
Oh, I know what it is. Hold on. Give me 1 second.
No worries. No worries. Here, so while Guy is sorting out his mic, I will let you guys know what the plan is for the day. So the Ray-Ban Metas and the Oakley Metas have been out for a bit. I've been testing the Oakley Metas for the past month. Guy's been testing them for a while as well. And what we wanted to do today is talk about these Meta glasses from a filmmaker's perspective, because they're really great for content creation. They're really great for vertical content creation. But other than posting on Instagram, Facebook, there are potentially a lot of other use cases for these glasses as tools for filmmakers. So we wanted to kind of give you our perspective today. Now, let me check back in with Guy. Guy, let's see how you sound.
Does it sound better now?
It sounds fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dodgy connection with my secondhand, I can't even remember what it was now, quite expensive mic that I've got here. It sometimes just goes a little bit funky. You just have to plug it and unplug it. So just let me know if it happens again.
It happens, but thank you for joining us today. There's a huge time gap, by the way, everybody, between here. I'm in Florida and Guy's in New Zealand. So it's 5:35 here. You said it's 9:30 by you?
9:30 in the morning. A day later, right?
And a day later.
Yeah.
So wait, are you coming to us from a Black Magic?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Okay. So are you on a Pixis or are you on a Cinema Camera 6K?
Cinema Camera 6K, my favorite camera. So I'm using the USB. I'm doing it through HDMI to USB. But I do actually have it connected via USB-C as well, but I'm just paranoid because I've never done it that way before. So I'm just, or in fact, I experimented a little bit and it seemed like it had more potential to break up. I don't know. So I'm just doing it the old way rather than doing it direct from USB-C to my Mac Studio. But yes, 6K full frame all the way, baby.
Oh yeah. I wish I was coming from that today. I'm doing the FX30 just so I could have my autofocus and set.
Well, that's right. I've got no autofocus, so I can't move at all. But apart from that, so good.
Yeah, that's a solid camera. It's my favorite camera right now too. But anyways, enough of. We're going to talk about a different camera today. So how long have you? Well, first of all, for those of you who are new to the channel and haven't seen anything here before, my name's Jeff Fagan. I'm a filmmaker and content creator, and on this channel, I talk a lot about tech that revolves around the life of a filmmaker, content creator, anybody who's in the world of video. And Guy, if you can give us a little introduction for yourself as well, just for the audience that has not seen your channel before, which is amazing, by the way. I have a link to his channel in the description below if you guys want to check it out.
Thanks, man. Yeah, look, I'm I guess fundamentally a writer-director, filmmaker. I run my own or co-run my own video production company over here called Campfire Studios, and we do a lot of, I guess I would say, sort of corporate work, sort of brand stories, and also, but we also do documentary work, mini docs. We did a very big documentary project that sort of came out midway through last year, and we're trying to get another one off the ground at the moment. So we do quite a wide variety of work. And then also I do, in New Zealand, it's very hard to have like a full-time job as just being a director, like of sort of, I guess, narrative projects, you would say. And so, but I also do that. I've just finished a short film that we're hoping to turn into a feature film that's sort of currently in development at the moment. and the short is doing the festival circuit. But so I do like, I guess I'd say a lot of small tier run and gun sort of solo or 2 or 3 person crew work. And then occasionally I'd scale up to do sort of bigger stuff, with a sort of a team of like, 10 or 15 maybe, and I've done a couple of feature films. This is getting too long, but
you're telling us. You're telling us. No, it's good for me too because I want to hear it.
And where you would have said like, so my first film was sort of crew of like maybe 20 or 30. Second feature was like much like fully indie, crew of like sometimes only 3 people, sometimes maybe 10 people, that type of thing. And so I've sort of done a little bit of everything, but video production is like sort of our bread and butter here, and what we make the most money. And so obviously my YouTube is sort of exploring a lot of the equipment and stuff that we use, and also just stuff that like I sort of discover on a day-to-day basis of like, hey man, that makes my workflow way easier. That just solves so many problems. Obviously I'm a gear nerd, gas, we've all got it, and so I'm interested in digging into the new cameras because the truth is the gap between sort of hybrid style mirrorless cameras and cinema cameras is getting smaller and smaller, every year smaller and smaller. And so that fascinates me as someone who had to fight and battle to use like what would now be considered completely obsolete, completely irrelevant pieces of digital cameras, when I was shooting my first feature film, to now these mirrorless cameras like 10, 20 times better than that. And so it's been fascinating to see that evolution as well of like all the equipment, even lighting, like lighting used to be big redheads and blondes and all those sorts of things, and
and real bulbs,
real bulbs that would like blow out, and now it's all LEDs, and those lights are so much cheaper. Everything is so much cheaper, which is really like great because it does mean that you can work with small crews but achieve like nice looking results. But yeah, that's a little bit about my sort of backstory.
No, and that's why we're here today. So obviously the main discussion is we're talking about the Metas, and not just the Oakley Metas, but we're talking about the Ray-Bans too, because they're the OG. They've been around for a while. And so Guy, what made you interested in purchasing the Ray-Ban Metas when you first heard of them? How did you hear about them? What got you interested into them?
Well, obviously YouTube taught me. And so I'd seen a lot of talk about sort of wearable glasses with a bunch of different stuff, primarily a lot of stuff around the, the Apple Vision Pros or whatever they were. But, that I really had no interest in that in terms of how they were, because again, part of what I love to do is I love to have everything stripped down. I love to work with less. I've been through the whole cycle of having like bigger and bigger cinema cameras and kind of, a big shot and like everything. And as I've found, the more I work, the smaller I want to get everything. And even the less I want to bring to set. I want to just be like very clean and minimal and think about other things than gear when I'm on set. And I saw a video actually by, I think Terry Warfield did a coverage on the Ray-Ban Metas, and I was like, whoa, what? These exist now in the world already? Like, these are so much more advanced than what I thought was possible. And I was like, I just immediately could see the benefit for me on set of like, I just won't have to ever get my iPhone out to, film a little behind the scenes thing, whether that be for YouTube or on my like corporate shoots, or even I was thinking less like as a director, I can just have these on and hit record and just sort of record a whole behind the scenes of me working with an actor, me talking through a scene, and have that, but it not be like, oh, hold on, I've got to get my camera out, or hold on, where's the behind the scenes person? Get them over here. They've got to capture this. Like none of like kind of it's just removing that barrier. And I also saw the facility too, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more in depth, but like I guess the vlogging possibilities but sort of again, sort of getting out of your own way, because
Right.
I love traveling, I love going overseas and stuff like that, and I infuriate my wife by saying, well, hold on, let me, I've just got to get just that, and it's sort of like you may say ruining the moments
Yeah,
by
for sure.
simply just constantly trying to shoot through something. And obviously with the Ray-Bans, they're just on your head. You just hit record, and then it's very unobtrusive for everyone around you, but also for yourself, sort of trying to take in that moment in a more natural fashion, or traditional non-fucking gear guy way,
Yeah, of course.
and so I think that was my like huge appeal. Is like I immediately saw that BTS is this is how it could be, this is how it could work, and that was very exciting to me.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, when I first saw not the Ray-Ban Metas, but the Ray-Ban Stories, which is kind of like the first evolution of those glasses, I thought it was interesting. What killed me was the image quality on the Stories specifically. The Ray-Ban Metas got better, but the Stories, I don't even remember if the Stories had an audio component to them. They may have only been video. But I saw those, and I was thinking the same as you. I'm like, well, at some point, someday, these can become great BTS tools. Because for me, when I was doing BTS on set, unless I had someone actually shooting BTS, I would typically bring like an Osmo Pocket. And I'm not talking an Osmo Pocket 3. This is before the 3. It was like the OG Osmo Pocket and GoPros. And I'd be like, hey, like get a few shots of me doing this and that. And or I'd have to do it myself. But I noticed when it came to me doing it myself, I was really bad at it because I wasn't DPing like passion projects. I was working for people. And so the problem I had was I didn't want to be seen like taking a camera out and then like filming and then taking away from my job. Like they're like, oh, what is he doing? Like filming a YouTube video, or is he trying to like get the shot right? And so I found that I wasn't really recording that much BTS. And then
It's very, very difficult to. I think we should I think we should highlight that like like when you're doing a on set, you're thinking of a million different things, whether if you're DP or if you're directing or if you're both. Like you can't just go, oh, hang on guys, just hold on, I just need to get something. Oh yeah, we're good. Like that is like the worst thing you could basically do.
Pretty much.
I just need something for the YouTube.
Yeah, and when I first started doing serious DP work, I would say it was in like 2018, and the sentiment towards YouTubers was bad. Like they didn't want to talk about YouTube. They didn't want to hear about it. If they knew, like I wasn't doing YouTube in 2018. So like I didn't have anything to hide. Like we'd be talking about it and I would just see them trashing on people, be like, oh yeah, I have a YouTube channel. I talk about cameras. So I didn't want to be seen like that and grabbing it. So fast forward to when the Oakley Metas came out. And I got sold on the 3K video. I'm going to be completely honest with you all. Like I knew a lot about the Ray-Ban Metas. I've tried them before. I wasn't super stoked on the image quality, but then when they said 3K, it was like back in the day when 4K came out and, you'd have all these faux cameras that were like, well, it shoots 4K. And it's like, yeah, but the bit rate's like 5 megabits per second. That's trash. Like I fell for it. And I got this because of the 3K, but this ended up being such a powerful tool. It's not always about the best image quality. It's almost about having the right tool to capture the right moment. And more than just a camera. I mean, this thing is basically like a business tool for me. I'm doing, not that I'm going to wear this the whole interview, but I'm doing like phone calls and, capturing a lot of things passively that I wouldn't have captured even with having a GoPro or an Osmo Pocket in my pocket. Just because it's so easy, the convenience of just clicking this or saying, hey, Meta, take a picture. Hey, Meta, take a video. It does it so much quicker than even taking out the gimbal and flashing it on. So that's been really cool. The other thing is, as you could probably tell, is we're talking about using these on set. I put transitions in here for a while because you cannot wear these things indoors, especially these specific ones. I mean, these are 24K polarized ones from Oakley, and they are dark. So the first thing I did was I got transitions, and that let me use them indoors, and it's been fine. I still have to get into the rhythm of when I'm on set, clicking record more, because I'm still finding that I'm getting into a groove of like not filming. So I'm trying to be better about that. But the one thing I am doing with these glasses that I did with my Bose frames, which is what I had before these, is a lot of times I'm the type of DP where I'm not unionized. So when I'm on set, I'm gonna help the gaffer set up the light because I'm trying to get the day moving like a lot quicker. And so I like wearing these and listening to music while I'm on set as well. So like it just, I feel like I'm in my step a lot better. Like I'm drinking my coffee at 6 a.m. I'm bringing light stands and lights, and I'm just jamming out to like Aerosmith or something like that, just trying to like get my rock on. I find that that's where these help me too. I just should be better about filming some stuff while I'm doing that as well. But I find it's a very interesting tool, and I'm interested to see where this technology goes, because this is just the beginning. I saw a commercial for another wearable that just got released that although they look like they're sunglasses, they really have projectors in them, and you hook them up to your computer and you could like video game on them. There's so many avenues that this technology can go in from popular manufacturers like Oakley and Ray-Ban. That's why I feel like it's interesting for us to kind of be discussing this now in the beginning of this whole revolution to kind of see where they go. So that all being said, want to move on to the next one because it's going to be different for both Guy and I since we have the Ray-Ban and the Oakleys. And I want to talk about the design and the comfort of the frames themselves. So Guy, in your opinion, for wearing these things for super long days, you have the Ray-Ban. Do you remember the exact version of the Ray-Bans you have, the frame style?
Yeah, I'll just hold them up here. So these are the ones that I picked. So I picked ones with the sort of clear frames as well. And I find that I can wear them for very long periods of time with no issue. Obviously, I'm wearing them inside as well. That's why, because actually I do heaps of filming inside. So it's not really that much use for me to have them as sort of traditional, sunglasses. However, I will say that while they are very, very comfortable, I do get a headache wearing them sometimes. And I can only assume that's like the blue blockers in the, in the frame just kind of do something that like, I've got 20/20 vision. So I feel like it's just like essentially looking through a window the whole day, but the window is right here. I feel like that it's just not very good for your eyes to do that. So while I'd say they are very comfortable, I'd say they also do, especially particularly inside, have the ability to kind of give me a little bit of a headache as I'm wearing them, just because you are looking through something, I guess. And that's my sort of only, I guess, negative about them. Apart from that, they are very comfortable. I don't get tired of wearing them. But yeah, I've just noticed that as a sort of thing, particularly when I'm doing a lot of inside shoots with them.
Yeah, I would echo the exact same thing. When I first got the transition lenses, I was pretty much wearing these all day, and I would turn it off just because although these have an 8-hour battery life.
Oh, sorry,
it's not
just cut out there.
You got me now? Hello. I think I'm good over here. Yeah, it shows I got my audio. I think Guy lost his audio for 2 seconds. If you guys are here in the chat, let us know if you can hear us, or at least let me know if you can hear me. While we're waiting for Guy, I am here.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my internet, but anyway.
Yeah, no worries. You hear me? So yeah, I was just saying I had the same experience as you, Guy. When I got the transitions, I was wearing these for like, I don't know, maybe like 10, 12 hours for the first few days. And I would turn them on and off as I needed them or as I got phone calls. And I noticed those days I was having headaches as well. And I figured it was from the blue blockers because After about a week and a half, 2 weeks of using the transitions, since I have these lenses that came with the Oakleys, I just put them back in because the transitions didn't get as dark as I needed them to be outside. And these things are like really, really dark. Once I did that, because I wasn't wearing them for, that many hours on end, I really didn't have those issues anymore. I like the feel of these frames, which I guess we will talk a little bit about in a bit about the build of the frames. But the one thing I found is I take these out biking a lot. And when I'm wearing them for hours and hours on end for every day, occasionally behind my ears, it just gets a little sore. But that's really my only complaint because compared to the Ray-Bans, I found that these are more comfortable, but I also have a bigger head and these are a larger frame size. Even though they kind of look like they could be smaller, this is a large frame size. Oakley's going to have to make smaller frames for people with smaller heads in the future because I could see these being way too big for some people. But for me, I needed the bigger frame and it just felt better. And we were actually, I took my dad to go look at some Ray-Bans when we were at a store called Sunglass Hut here. And they had like all of them in front of us. So we just started testing them and we could just, for whatever reason, the Oakleys had a better fit, but the Oakleys also, are coming out way after the Ray-Bans did. So like Ray-Ban kind of pioneered this technology and led the way for Oakley. So I'm interested to see what Ray-Ban does now that there's all this new technology in here. Because my sneaky suspicion is that the sensor in here, like the actual camera sensor, is probably the same or very similar to what's in the Ray-Bans because I haven't been able to see like an image quality difference on these things at all.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I sort of agree with you. Is like what I was so impressed by was the fact that it's like, man, you fit all of this tech into essentially a frame that is the size of I guess what you'd say a regular thick frame. It's not a thin frame, but it's a regular thick frame. And it's like how much smaller can they really make the frames? I'm not sure. And it is interesting. You sort of talk about, I was looking at some of your videos around the Oakleys, and it's like they do look very similar image quality wise. Obviously, that sort of 3K resolution, we get into this over sharpening thing, right? It's like, is it really a different image or is it just kind of a more over sharpened image? Because it definitely does look sharper than the Ray-Bans. And you could certainly argue that is better, but they feel in some ways much for muchness, as in, at this stage anyway. They both kind of offer a relative, and maybe we can sort of compare sort of raw footage of those. But like looking at your stuff, I was like, oh, they're definitely a little bit sharper for sure. But yes, it does appear, I think, that it's probably very likely to be the same camera with, a slightly different processing.
And the reason we say this isn't the first time we've seen different companies use the same sensor tech. I mean, but we're not going to get super camera technical in this video, but guys using a Blackmagic camera that's using a Sony sensor, and that same Sony sensor is in all these different cameras, and all these different cameras treat the sensor differently. So this wouldn't be our first time seeing, different companies use the same sensor, the same lens, the same tech. It's from Meta, so we don't know. They're not really giving that information away, but maybe at some point we can find out. But I agree, it definitely looks sharper. I think the sharpness is from the resolution, because when you crop in on the image, obviously the sharpness decreases. But that's kind of what you're getting with this. You feel like your frame is a little bit too wide, or you really need to get a 16:9 image out of this thing. Well, there's the benefit of cropping right there, because if you crop in the 16:9 on the Ray-Bans, it's going to be a very soft image, and it is a softer image on these for sure. I'm not going to say it's not, but it's definitely sharper than what you'd see on the Ray-Bans if you're cropping in, because at that point you're cropping into 16:9 on these. You're throwing away like maybe 65% of the image, because it's not. The other thing too that I noticed, and I think you've probably noticed this as well, is the vertical image we're getting out of these is not a 1080 by 1920 image. It's like wider than that. It's a little bit wider, and some of the like YouTube makes me, for instance, when I take the videos from these, it makes me take a little bit of a center crop, and it's throwing like maybe like 10 or less percent on each side away. And I found that interesting, but it made me realize that the 16 by 9 crop ins aren't quite as bad as I thought they were, because I thought you were going to be throwing away even way more of the image.
Yeah, well, I think that's actually probably something that's, and for those that haven't used these, essentially the image is not a 16 by 9 image. It is a vertical image, but it's not a 4 by 3 image, and it's not a 1080 by 1920 image. It's somewhere in between those two things, right? And so what you find yourself doing is either, okay, you're using it all vertical, and that's fine. Or, you know, for me, I have wanted to push in all the time. I've been wanting to push in to a 16 by 9, you know, if I am trying to demo something on YouTube or whatever. And yeah, it does not look very good when you do that. It looks quite terrible. And so I feel like the next evolution of these has to provide 16 by 9 output, or the potential for a 16 by 9 output, because I just feel like then it's really, then they become really, really interesting for a lot of the applications we're talking about. Not to say that obviously, you know, vertical's here to say, we all know that, but it just gives you so much more flexibility. And, you know, obviously that's probably quite difficult with the size of these sensors. But yeah, I think that it's definitely something that in the future, that's probably one of my number one things I'd love to see, is a 16 by 9 option.
Hey, sorry, give me 1 second. Yeah, I'm the same. The other thing too is, at first I kind of thought the conspiracy theory thing, where I'm like, oh, you know, I think they're only giving us vertical video because it's from Facebook, and you know, they have Instagram and it's a vertical platform.
Yeah.
So then as I started looking into the design of these, I was wondering if maybe part of the thing wasn't, of these being vertical, wasn't just about it wasn't just about, you know, it being from Facebook, but maybe by them being vertical, it just worked with the design better. Like maybe if they did a 16 by 9 one, the actual sensor would be too wide and hit up against the lens or something like that. And by it being vertical, they had this room right here that was up and down. Just the more I looked at these, the more that almost made the most sense to me. And maybe they would have to make these a little bit bigger to be a 16 by 9 sensor, or 17 by 9, however they wanted it to be.
Yes, and you could certainly speculate too that a part of the reason they avoided doing that is the kind of problem that you sort of have already, where the camera's on the side, it's not in the middle, but your vision is centered. And so when you're looking at these, there's a slightly misleading thing where
we're having the mic pop out again.
Oh, hold on.
Try talking now.
Okay, so sorry.
I hear you. No worries.
Yeah. So yeah, like, because you essentially think that it's the camera's in the middle, because that's what you're seeing, your vision. They have managed to do something that's kind of bumped the camera to one side a little bit. Like, it's not super on the side where the camera is, but it's still like a little bit skewed to one side. And I wonder if you made it 16 by 9, you would accentuate that problem, and it would become more obvious that essentially you're looking out of one eye almost. So I do see that there's like some limitations there. And in some ways you don't want the camera, like, you do want it right in the middle, but you don't want it right in the middle if you can see this big camera in the middle.
Yeah. And also, I don't know how that would work. Like
Yeah.
you would have to make this so much thicker.
Yes.
Although the field of view would definitely be easier on us because we could approximate it. I don't know if you run into that issue where sometimes you think you're filming something and you're like a little bit more to the left than you should be, or a little
Definitely.
bit more to the right. I've
Yeah.
had that issue.
Yes. Yeah, it is a little bit frustrating. I feel like they've corrected it a bit over the course of the updates, where they've kind of made it, or at least in the Ray-Ban version, made it slightly more centered somehow. But it's still a problem when anything gets close to the lens, and you're as you're framing, you're kind of framing it, like to just a slightly on one side. And again, we could say like the other big problem with these glasses is that you don't know actually what you're seeing.
And there's
There's no
no live view
preview.
at all. Zero.
And again, in future updates, could there be a button where you just kind of click and you get like a little preview window, and then click it and back to normal view? Something like that might be like a really handy way to kind of judge your framing a bit better, because as it stands, you're like, I hope I'm getting what I'm looking at the way I imagine, but you won't know until you look at the end of the day, basically.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm wondering, there probably isn't enough bandwidth for them to send out a live view with what
Yes.
with the Wi-Fi. But I mean, well, yeah, I mean the transfers. This could be something we roll into next. Let's talk about the app, which is why I think there may not be enough bandwidth. So the one difference from us using the app is the 3K video, which you pretty much need to you have to have the app on your phone in order to get your photos and your videos off this device. The Oakley Meta, it only has 32 gigs of memory on board. So once you go over that, I don't know if it stops you from recording. I think it writes over the earliest thing, but you essentially want to grab everything off of this, because once you grab it off, it deletes it from the glasses. In the 3K video, I've set mine to do 3-minute recordings. Sometimes it takes a while to get a 3-minute recording off these things. It takes longer than 3 minutes. And that's why I wonder if there's enough bandwidth, maybe in the Wi-Fi of these, because you have to connect to the Wi-Fi of the glasses, and then it transfers over Wi-Fi. I don't know how to gauge what the transfer speed is on there. Have you had any issues, or what's your thought about the app itself?
Well, the app is definitely like a little bit flawed, and I think what we're talking about is, again, one of the sort of bigger frustrations is like, at least for me, it takes quite a long time to get those photos or video off the glasses up to the cloud to then share them back to my computer. Like it's quite a if you've been shooting the whole day, it takes quite a while. And frustratingly, at least for the Ray-Bans, is you can't have them in the case while you're doing it. You have to have them out, like they have to be like this as you're. And I've definitely been in situations too where it says the glasses have overheated. You have to wait a second, but it gives you that warning in the app, and then it kind of just keeps going. Like it doesn't really stop, even though it's saying the glasses are too hot, they need to cool down. But then it just keeps uploading. And
so I wonder if they're thermal throttling it when it gives you that notification. I wonder if they're just throttling the speed to try and get it to cool down, and instead of
I would
shutting it off.
certainly believe that is entirely possible, because there does seem to be sometimes it's like, wow, that uploaded quite quickly. When you have less clips, you got more clips. Oh, that kind of went slower. And so I do think that there's some differences there, or some problems there. And the most frustrating thing for me about the way the clips upload, and it's actually like sort of stops me from using some of the clips, but like it doesn't. You don't get them once you get them onto your computer. They're not laid out sequentially, as in when you recorded them. They're
Mhm.
laid out by the size that they were when they were recorded. So it actually kind of puts them all out of order. At least that's been the case for me. So
Okay.
I'm then like, obviously you're filming and everything in order, and if you want to do a vlog, you kind of want them all in order, and then just drop them in and trim them up. That's the quickest workflow. And what I found is that I've uploaded them, I put them in the folder for that day, I bring them in, and I'm like, oh man, these are all out of order, and I don't know where my day started, and I can't track that. I've kind of got to go hunt through everything, and that becomes like a real barrier to sort of editing them in sort of a vlog style. And I don't know if you have or you've experienced that same issue, but that's just been the way that it's something to. And I did look online at a few Reddits and stuff, and they were basically like, yeah, it's something to do with the bigger files get bumped up in the order, once they either go into the cloud or come back down.
I've had the exact same issue where a lot of my quicker clips, they showed up earlier, and then the longer clips, especially the longer 3K clips, they're like at the end, and it's not sequential. I haven't had the biggest issue though as far as editing it, because typically I'm like going through my phone and I'm just picking what I'm going to airdrop to my computer. But that's the big problem for me, is the fact that I'm taking them off the glasses to my phone, and then from my phone to my computer. And I get it, like, we're not necessarily the target audience of these devices. We're trying to kind of use it beyond what it's meant for. But it is annoying for me to have to do that, which leads me into the next subject, which is, do you think the footage from these devices can be used as legitimate B-roll in a project? Do you think that in some situations they would replace an action cam, like a GoPro or an Action 5? Or do you think that they're just supplementary video to that kind of content?
I think just because people's standards of what they expect to see have gotten lower because of smartphones, I do think that they can fulfill that purpose. I do not think that they're perfect for that, in their current form. Like, it would be nice to see them get a bit better. And like they're way off like an Action 4 or Action 5. Like, there's a massive difference. But as I sort of said in my video, it's like they're like an iPhone 11 quality, 1011 quality, which obviously was the standard when iPhone 1011s were released. So I think that, and I also think that, again, the world that we live in, the era that we live in, the TikTok world, like kind of crappy quality video is something that a lot of us just kind of accept and go, whatever. Now for, filmmakers, that's a bit more, I guess, kind of hurts our soul a little bit, because we want to make everything look nice. And obviously if you shoot any BTS, even with a new iPhone, it is going to look a lot nicer. But I do think it can fulfill that function. I'd love if it had that 16:9 option, or obviously we're talking 3K. If we had like maybe a sort of a 4K or 6K and we're just punching in on that, that would also probably work if it was slightly better. So I do think it can do that, but I also do think that it's like we're probably a couple of generations away from it being optimal to do that.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. I completely agree. I think we're going to be there one day, and in some situations it can definitely supplement, but it's not quite a replacement yet. Especially, it was so it was upsetting, and then it was also grounded me a little bit when I compared the video footage from these against the Osmo Pocket and my Action.
Yeah,
because I looked at the Action, I'm like, even the Action like destroyed the image quality on these, and I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, why did I even get these? And then I had to ground myself a little bit, and I'm like, oh wait, how do I expect them to even get an action camera level sensor and lens in something like this small, it's although I think I just pointed to the LED light, this small.
yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested to also see who else enters the market, because Facebook is locking us really to their platforms with these.
Yeah.
One thing I would love to do is I would live stream more on Facebook. I mean, not on Facebook, on YouTube, like we're doing right now. If I could live stream from these, because I've been live streaming a decent amount to Instagram, and it's works really decent. It's relatively seamless. I get all of my comments through my earpiece, so I don't have to be looking at the phone. Um, but of course, YouTube is in competition with Meta, so we're not going to get that. And that's where maybe I could see an Apple or company like that getting into the wearable market in the future.
Well, I
Because I mean,
think
look, they
that
already are.
absolutely, like I feel, and this is one of the things I was thinking of, is like, look, the Vision Pro is a really specific thing, a kind of an experiment by Apple, and I
Mhm,
applaud them for
mhm,
doing these kinds of experiments. For the regular user, they're too big, they're too expensive, they're too niche, they're kind of probably a very weird experience to use, a lot of the time. But it's interesting, and
yeah, yeah,
and it's sort of like, okay, cool, you went that way with it, where you're kind of trying to make it this immersive interactive thing. But what if we just think small here and go, can we just compete with a Ray-Ban version of this? Surely we can. We're actually probably the best position to do this. And
mhm,
if you think about the interactivity it could have with your Apple Watch, maybe your AirPods, if so, if they're not also doing the audio thing, like there's a lot of ways they could integrate it and it could work really, really well. And
mhm,
they've been obviously making better and better cameras in their phones. Can they get one of these really good cameras to kind of work in, and look, I think we all can say that like Facebook, Meta, whatever, is like not the most I don't know exactly how to phrase it, but they just they
they're more of a software company than a hardware company.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so however they do this, and also part of the way they're doing this is like probably quite different to way Apple would do it. Like, Meta
Mhm,
is very interested in people's information,
mhm,
mining their information for profit. Like that is their MO. That is, how they make a significant amount of their money. And you kind of have to go accept that if you're using one of these. Now, Apple
mhm,
have sort of illustrated that they're very kind of anti that. Although I'm sure obviously they're still doing it to some degree, but they're very
yeah.
anti that sort of thing. They've made, things about that in the
Leaps
past
in
and what
privacy.
exactly what they do and how they protect your data and blah, 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 blah. So you have to imagine that if Apple were to release one, they might not be, I guess, watching so diligently
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're, and not necessarily taking that information in quite the same way. And that could be quite nice for those who ethically are opposed to the way Facebook Meta conduct their business.
Smartly said. So I have this whole list of questions right here, and we it's funny because we answered a lot of them through tangents, which I love. Um, one of the questions we didn't answer was about audio from the metas. So I'm sure we're going to be on the same level on this. What do you think about the audio quality when we're recording videos on the Ray-Bans? Do you think you could trust them for vlogging and BTS footage, or do you think it's just not quite there yet?
I honestly think you can.
Mm,
I have done, a lot of stuff where if you're relatively close to the other person, you're going to capture
mhm,
everything they say very clearly.
mhm,
And I guess what I would say is I'm shocked by how good it was. And what it made me think, and I'm sure people are doing this, but I'd love to do it, is that to create like a short film where you
mhm,
just essentially use the metas. So it's a vertical short film, and you don't bring any audio. You just put the meta on whoever it is, the angle that you're capturing, right? Or point of view
mhm,
that you're capturing. And you
mhm,
just see what you get. Uh,
mhm.
because I do think they are good enough. Now, they could definitely be better.
Right, right.
But I actually, I've always been kind of impressed. It is still kind of like it's, you know, it's not perfect. Like it is kind of
Mhm.
tinny sounding, you know, I've noticed. But
Mhm.
you know, overall, I've been pretty impressed by that audio. How do you feel about them? Like what's your
I
thought?
could probably sum it up in one word because I agree with pretty much everything you said. Usable.
Usable?
You
Yeah.
know, it's not the best. It's not terrible. I've had way worse. It's usable. Is it?
Yeah.
Do you expect to go film, you know, Avengers Endgame with these things and get the
Yeah.
audio from them? No, not absolutely not. But you know, for casual vlogging or if you use these with intention, like if you're going to make a short film with them, you're using them with intention. So you're going to carefully craft how these things capture the audio. Maybe you're going to have the person speak a little bit differently, whatever it may be, but it's usable. And it'll only get better from here. So at least it's not unusable because, you know, I've gone on bike rides and I've been able to capture my audio from these, and it actually sounds, again, pretty usable. So yeah, I think it's usable, but uh, probably with the next iteration, we'll get much cleaner sound because we're seeing how clean audio we can get from like the mini version of this mic right here. And that
Yeah.
thing is so small. You know, audio. I used to think audio was just never going to see a huge revolution. And then we started getting these crazy small wireless audio devices. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that is the revolution. Is audio going to change? It's almost like how small can we get really good quality audio devices to fit in all these spots?
Those mic minis, man, just blew my mind.
Yep.
You know, because
Yep.
I was using the Rode Wireless Pros, which are, you know,
Yep.
slightly bigger.
Mhm.
Um, and I was always plugging a lav into them. And then
Mhm.
I just tested one shoot. I tested the mic minis because they are so small. And I was like, oh, what the heck is these are
I know.
insanely good for,
Mhm.
you know, like, and you know, I'm not a audiophile really, but I do care about good
Mhm.
sound. And
Mhm.
you know, it's like if you can get that good a sound from those mic minis, yeah, how we must be kind of close. And you know, with these glasses, I will also say that I've taken so many calls from my wife calling me up and saying, "Where are you? What are you doing? When are
Mhm.
you?" You know, and she's never ever complained about like like I'm just taking those calls wherever I am. I might be in the supermarket, I might be at the gym, I might be on a shoot,
Mhm.
and she's never ever been like, oh, could you speak up, I can't hear you,
Mhm.
or anything like that, or you're breaking up or anything like that. Is I'm assuming she's assuming that I've got my earpods in or something like that when I'm taking those
Mhm.
calls, but actually
Mhm.
it's with those glasses. So they are very good in that respect too. Like,
Mhm. The
you
noise
know,
isolation for our voice is solid,
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
solid. I
yeah,
don't think there's a way to turn it off though, which in some situations, if you use it like for narrative, you may
yes,
want to.
yeah,
But I haven't tried doing any of that yet. We've discussed it, but like I think that may be an issue. Again, using these things for for not what they're meant for. Uh,
that's
but
right.
to- but but we'll see. Maybe in the future there'll be a way to like dial down the amount of noise isolation there is. But that would certainly help. So again, we covered a lot of this stuff. So really quickly before we wrap up, I want to talk about use cases. Even though again we've covered that a little bit, do you see any use cases beyond BTS? Like real practical use cases. I know we talked about doing a short, but I think that's like a specialty thing. Do you see any use cases that could be regularly used for filmmakers with these devices?
Well, I think that, yeah, like, to be honest, and the whole appeal to me was BTS.
Hmm.
Secondary was sort of, you know, the idea of vlogging, uh, you know, trips and travel and stuff like that. But I do think
Hmm.
that, and this is slightly adjacent to that, but I do think it's kind of like worth mentioning is that, you know, I've just recently become a dad, and
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. And I captured some moments with these glasses, you know, post labor, post birth. you know, and a couple of moments just, you know, I'll just have the glasses, I'll just chuck them on, and I'll just talk to my son, you know, as if one day he's going to maybe see these. And because it's so unobtrusive, it's just different to taking your phone out, right? And so I do think for kind of capturing these like more, and you know, they're never going to go online or anything like that. They're just for us, just for the family. And I do think that like there's something about the way that these you know, because they're just on your head, because you just press a button, because no one really pays attention to whether that like little blinking light is blinking or not. You can capture these like really nice intimate moments, private moments that you may want to just look back on in the future in a way that just nothing else really gives you that, you know, because if it's your phone, put your phone away, you know. And I think that that's just worth mentioning. Yeah.
No, I completely agree. There's so many use cases that we didn't cover today, but I wanted to try and kind of separate us from the noise a little bit and talk about the filmmaker perspective, because the dad cam, I guess we can almost call it, like that huge function for these, that I think way more people are going to have the dad cam function than filmmaking and behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I was like, there's a lot of stuff you're not going to hear us talk about, just because all the other reviewers are going to be talking about that stuff. We just want to kind of stick to this corner. But I completely agree. Like the everyday stuff, the photo quality, which we didn't even go over. I love the photos on these better than the video. Like I've taken so many photos on these, and I love the image quality for photos. I would take a photo with these glasses over my phone any day because of the convenience factor of just going bloop. You know, it's there, and I can crop in.
And one thing that maybe we haven't really talked about that you're sort of orientated more towards is you sort of talked about it as a action cam replacement, right?
So yes, the reason I've kind of gone away from that now is I've got this little bad boy right here, the Osmo 360. And the thing is, you know, the more I use this, the part of the reason I don't consider this an action cam replacement is it's not waterproof. It's weatherproof. I've been in a rainstorm with these and they weren't damaged. The audio wasn't damaged. None of that. It worked fine after that. But with these action cams, I'm putting them in the water. Like I went surfing on Sunday and I brought this out with me and I got destroyed. I mean, just destroyed. And if this thing wasn't waterproof, it wouldn't have survived. Like I was thinking for like a quick like 2 seconds. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go stand in the waves for a little bit and get some cool shots. And then I'm like, I just look at some of these guys getting taken out by the waves. I'm like, no, definitely not a good idea. No, I'm okay. But that being said, the reason I'm not even considering looking at this as an action cam right now is I'm new to this whole 360 game, and I got this camera to test it out because I had a feeling that you could get shots with this that could replicate high-end shots from movies and obviously not be filmed with the exact same tech, but on the low end, give us like these really cool looking shots that we can get on a budget now. And that's what I've been pushing with. And because of the 360 angle and your ability to like reframe and do all that stuff, which cropping in isn't really the same as reframing in 360 because of just all the different fields of view you have. Instead of thinking about this as a replacement for action cameras, I'm actually thinking about this as a replacement for action cameras because of how much more you can get with one device. Where this does a lot of what action cameras already do. It's just on your head. So yeah, like for certain moments I could see that. But if you're using an action camera, like if you're a casual user, yes, I could see this maybe replacing an action camera if you're not going in the water at all. But if you're like a hardcore user, I think 360 from all the companies, not just DJI, is going to be kind of like the next step up where like the action cameras are going to kind of be like the joke and these are going to be the action cameras. Do you have much experience with these 360 cams?
Dude, I almost bought one of the DJI ones. There's one actually up online at the moment, secondhand. Obviously someone didn't like it, that I was very tempted to put a bid on. And they're actually very affordable too. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
they are. Cost the same.
shockingly.
Cost the same as these glasses. I was like, what?
But I've never had I almost got an Insta360 for my last trip to Japan because I thought it could really capture some unique perspectives, and I am fascinated by, you know, what those cameras can do. And, you know, and we've seen it already in, like, I guess in the film space of, like, you know, how can you tell a story with these and all that sort of thing. And I'm really interested in that too. But I think it's just the hardest part about an Insta360 like style movie is getting all the crew out the way for each setup to happen. It's like you've kind of got to set everything up, then hide all the crew, and then shoot whatever you were going to shoot with that three. Because
So what I had to learn was, you know, shooting 360 isn't always about having the 360 image, because I'm not displaying anything in 360. It's about getting to go from here to here and having the movement of there to there. And once I kind of thought about it like that, where I'm like, oh, like I could be like, for instance, I have this mount. I ended up buying this mount. I watched Cam Mackey's video on how he mounted this to his motorcycle. And he was using, I think, the official DJI ones, and which you can't really get a lot of the accessories here in the States right now because of everything going on. But I got a third-party one, and I was, you know, adjusting this and all these different creative angles, like getting this thing down by my bike tire, going like 25 miles an hour down the beach. Stuff that you can't do with stuff like this, or even traditional action cams, because with traditional action, with any camera, you have to angle the lens towards the exact piece, and you have to frame it, and you have to get everything just right. Where it's not that you don't have to frame stuff with this, but a lot of the framing is done in post. So as long as your lighting was on point and you do have it somewhat in the frame, and you're using the right tech, like the invisible selfie sticks that just disappear automatically, if you're using the right ones, I found it, you just get some of these creative shots, like specifically in Cam's video, the shot of the front of his motorcycle wheel and how crisp and pristine it was. You know, normally someone would be filming from a chase car, you know, like this wouldn't be on an invisible selfie stick doing it. But the way that this tech works is because the selfie stick is invisible, you don't see that in your footage. You just see the big bicycle wheel, and the rest of the wheel of the stick is just invisible. So like it looks like someone else is filming you. And those are the types of shots that have me excited about 360, that again replicate some of these really Hollywood movie type shots that I can't do on the budget for a YouTube video. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, I guess what you're really saying is like, hey, don't think of it like it's 360. Think of it like a 180 cam. You know, and that's really interesting. I think it's fascinating tech, and I think, look, you have to give credit to DJI for taking over the world. Like they're doing awesome. Like they do awesome drones. They do awesome action cameras. Now they've got this 360 camera. And you know that. And again, full credit to them with I can't remember if the 360 has a 10-bit option. I feel like it does.
Theirs or the others?
The DJI one.
Yeah, no, that's why I got it, because it's 10-bit. What's confusing is it's 10-bit log in this, and on the Insta360 they now have log, but it's 8-bit log. So that's what spoke to me, is this is really the first 360 cam, excuse me, that can be used interchangeably with cinema cameras or mirrorless cameras that shoot log, because you can shoot 10-bit log on this. You can color grade it really hard, and you can get it to match other cameras. Where even though the Insta360 has log, it is 8-bit. So if you push that thing and you push it really hard, it's not going to quite. It's going to be really hard to get everything to match, like even a mirrorless camera, and it still look really good, because by the time you do everything to match it, you may introduce a lot of artifacting and problems to the image, especially because, again, it's 8-bit, it's 360, the bit rate all these things. So that's what spoke to me about this is it's the first. I'm sure Insta360 is going to have to do a 10-bit camera after this. But there's also the ecosystem of I'm already in DJI. I've got their action cams. I got their pocket. I've got their drones. Everything's in D-Log and D-Log-M. So it's a color space that I'm used to.
Yeah.
And Insta360 is just yet another color space I would have to learn. But I'm sure they'll get there.
Yeah. Well, look, I'm very excited by. I probably you sold me. I'm probably going to get one. But it's no, it's like it's awesome, and I do think there's a lot of, and even the idea of kind of set it and forget it for like BTS shoots and stuff. Obviously, that's way more viable with a 360 cam than it is for any other type of camera. Can we talk a little bit about your little Apple Mac thing on your desk there? Your little
this thing?
Yeah.
This little guy?
Have you done a video on that?
I did a video on this. Right now I don't have it hooked up. But it's a little desk ornament. And but what this thing is, this company called Wokies, they're on Kickstarter right now. And essentially it's exactly what it looks like. It is a screen that actually works. And it's IO. So you have, like USB-A's, you got two of them right here. I think they're 5 gigabit, if I remember. These two are 5 gigabit. You've got a USB-C right here that's 5 gigabit. You've got an SD card reader. You've got actually, I think it is 10 gig. Oh no, the front's 5 gigabit because on the back here there's two USB-A's that are 10 gigabit. But nice. And there's a thing for an SSD. I don't have one in this one because this is my one for show. I actually have one in my room that has an SSD in it, but it's a cool little device. I haven't been using it all the time. Oh, and you open this bottom and you can actually put it on the Mac Mini. So cool. It's meant to go over the Mac Mini. Now, right now I'm using 3 monitors. So I can't have it plugged in. There's really no way to not use the monitor. You can turn it off, but it's still going to take a slot if it's plugged in. So I have this one for show. Eventually what's going to happen is eventually this M4 Mac Mini is going to get retired because we're almost a year out. The M5s are coming out soon. So I'm probably going to do what I originally planned with this M4 Mac Mini because I had no clue it was going to be as powerful as it was. I'm going to probably end up turning that thing into a server computer. And that's where this puppy is going to be great because then I can have a screen on it at all times without having to have a big monitor. Have all of my external drives attached to this thing and be able to access all of my tape-based drives remotely on my network. Have my computer out here, access everything. This will probably be like in a closet with all the tape-based drives. That's my plan with these down the line. They are really cool.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. What are you doing with all your footage? Like, are you a keep all your footage type of guy, or are you
so for YouTube, I typically don't keep the footage unless it's really good B-roll or it's really good B-roll of like a product shot that I think I may use later down the line. This is like a mixture of client work. I believe I typically keep client work for about 3 years, even if they don't ask me to. It doesn't happen all the time, but I've had times where a client comes back and they expect me to have it. So I try to keep it for about 3 years. If it was, and I hate to say it like this, a client shoot that paid well. If they paid well, I'm going to keep the stuff because if something happened, you know what? I had it for 3 years. Another thing I have a lot of that I've been working on lately, wakeboarding. I shot wakeboarding from 2008 to the end of 2016, pretty much full all the time. And so I have a lot of that footage on these old drives, and I'm working on a new project that does have to do with the Osmo 360, but resurfacing a lot of old clips with a buddy of mine, Diego, who was one of the best wakeboarders in the world, and try to show kind of how we used to shoot action sports back in the day, back in 2008 to 2000. I'm not even going all the way to my end of wakeboarding because drones and stuff started to come out back then. So it was a little bit closer to where it is now. But I wanted to show where things were in like 2012 when I would say both Diego and I were at our peak of our wakeboarding times, and then show how you can film wakeboarding now because with something like this, where I can have a selfie stick and I can go extend it out and I can get underneath his wakeboard, or I can go and like move it, and with the tracking and the software, there's so many endless possibilities with technology like this that didn't exist before. I just want to show kind of like where things were and where we've come now. Different little tangent, but yeah, I have a lot of projects, older projects that I keep, especially some big music stuff that I shot back in from 2013 to 2016 as well. A lot of like really big artists. I've kept a lot of the raw footage just for me.
Yeah.
And stuff that I shot, just because it's always nice. And I'm looking back later, and a lot of the stuff that I shot in ProRes, but in log, and then a lot of the stuff that I shot in raw, like on my original Blackmagic Pocket, it kind of like has new life all these years later. And that's why I'm so glad that I kept everything. Because I remember, to cap it off, this one guy came into the cable park one day, and I was like 17 years old. And he was like some old filmer guy who had been around in the industry at that point for like 20 years. And he knew that I was kind of like, I just had my first movie come out, my first wakeboarding movie. And he's like, I hope you're keeping that stuff. And I'm like, what do you mean you hope I'm keeping it? Like, no, I'm fucking trashing this shit the second I'm done with it. And he's like, no. 20 years from now, you'll thank me. And I'm like, why? You got to keep it. You got to keep everything, because you just never know what's going to happen. That someone may pass, that some person may hurt themselves really bad, and or like something may happen, and you can then go back to this footage and look at it, and it becomes invaluable at a later date in time. You just didn't realize it right now. And so ever since that guy told me that, it stuck with me, where I'm like, you know what? I should be keeping all this stuff. And so that's why with client work, I'll only keep it for a certain amount of time, because unless it's something that I'm going to keep for the demo reel, after 3 years, it's trash. But anything really good, I will keep for down the line. And now that I'm doing YouTube, it's also nice for like retrospectives, where it's like, I used the Blackmagic 4K for like 4 years, and here's some footage from, 7 years ago on the Blackmagic 4K, and here's some footage now, and it was as good of a camera then as it is now, and it's still a relevant camera, even though we're all moving into bigger sensors and this and that. So it's that's why I try to keep everything as much as I can.
That's cool, man. And what is let's just say, what's your camera of choice, not for YouTube, but for client work? What is your camera of choice?
So it switches between the FX30 and the Blackmagic. For the while, it was switching between the FX30 and the Komodo. But because the Blackmagic is so much, I guess I could say easier to use, but I don't think it's the right word. I think it's more that it's quicker to use than the Komodo.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. I've basically, like, I had the Komodo as my YouTube camera for like the past few months, and even that was a pain in the butt. So now, like, and it's crazy to think, just because the Komodo has taken such a loss over the years, but I've shot a few movies with it, and especially the Star Trek movie I have coming out in a few months. This camera I shot most of the movie with that and the Komodo that I sold prior. So it's like, it's a sentimental thing at this point, where I keep it because I have a lot of memories attached to it, and that's why I won't get rid of it. But Blackmagic, for sure, I would say I'm taking as much with me as possible. I love that camera. I like it more than the FX30, but there are times where I just need a super small camera that has autofocus. And that's where the FX30 lives. Like right now, I've switched my studio setup. It's literally fitting the bill right now. A super small camera in the corner of my room with 11 millimeter Sony lens, and the little DJI thing that goes into the hot shoe, so I don't have to have all these cords everywhere. It really helps in those situations. So like events, I'm going to take the FX30 over the Blackmagic any day, because there's a lot less thinking that has to go on, and I'm on the gimbal the whole time. I don't want any cords. So yeah, those are I would say my two cameras of choice. What would you say yours are?
Well, it's just interesting because I think our sort of evolution is kind of similar. Like, obviously, you're a much more accomplished cinematography and DOP. I consider myself more of a director who has kind of gone into video production, because that's where the work is.
Right.
And so I'm looking at it from a slightly different perspective, but certainly one thing that for me, I had a red Komodo and I had my Blackmagic 6K or 6Ks, because I got a few for video podcast production work. And I was having this. I work a lot with a director of photography who's a good friend of mine, but we're always talking gear. And I was like, the thing is, man, the Komodo, it's a beautiful image. I love the image. You can't say that it doesn't provide a better image than the 6K full frame in the right conditions. The right conditions, but I'm finding that I'm never in the right conditions. I'm finding that I don't have quite enough light for it. I'm finding that, you know, I now have to rig an extra audio thing if I want to do, you know, if I'm recording audio, which I'm always recording audio on my shoots. And it's like the 6K just is quicker and give, like, you know, and you get, you know, 90% of the way there with the Blackmagic. And it's like, you can't justify that 10% of faffing around each time you get, oh, well, I need to bring in another light actually. Oh, well, just give me a second because I've got to rig up my audio. Like, a lot of it just slows you down. And like, perfect. I mean, it is a cinema camera. We're talking about a cinema camera and a cinema camera, but a cinema camera that kind of is, I guess you would say, quote unquote, slightly lower end, that's offering a few of the conveniences. You know, even the gyro camera stabilization is actually like something that when I shoot handheld, I use that all the time. And so, yeah, I just found that the Komodo was just a couple of degrees of the types of shoots that I was doing. Like, it was awesome when we could take the time to do it right, I guess, but we just didn't, very rarely had that time
100%.
on the productions that I was working on. And so I sort of just kept the 6K full frame as my sort of like, I guess, my go-to best looking camera. And then I have, and then underneath that, I had the Sony A7S III and A7 IV. And I've now just perhaps regretfully swapped out my A7S III for the Panasonic S1 II, and I do have a Panasonic S1H as well. So yeah, so I sort of like I guess the more corporate end, the event stuff, you know, the kind of brand stuff would generally be Sony's, and then when we needed to get into something a little bit more bespoke, whether that's a sort of a more, I guess, high value client, or like, you know, that have a certain expectation, then we go to the 6K full frame or something like that, and try and shoot it a bit, you know, and then you bring out the cinema lenses and stuff like that, and you're not doing autofocus or anything like that, or at least that's how I work. And yeah, so that's been my journey. But it is very interesting to see, and I think you're just going to kind of like, I see productions getting smaller and smaller, and I see, and I'm talking about, like, you know, you've still got a kind of a slightly bigger crew, but they're using an FX6, and like an FX6 is very, very close to an A7S III. You know, like, yes, it is slightly nicer, but it's very close, and the gap is just getting so much smaller. And I just think it's like, it's just a little bit ignorant now to be like, oh, well, it's you know, you can only apply, you should never be thinking about these for, I guess, professional jobs. It's like, I just don't think that holds weight in 2025.
Well, I also feel like the people who would say that are the people who are coming from production. Like, a battle that I always had to fight with fellow, like, people that I was friendly with, people that I was acquaintances with in the industry. Every bit of advice they're giving on cameras is from their background in production, film production, making movies, making TV shows, doing some music videos. That's it. They're not shooting weddings. They're not doing corporate work. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. And so when they're like, oh, you know, I wouldn't use this for professional work, but I would use this. And it's like, you'd use an Arri Alexa to shoot this like corporate thing with that had like their budget's $5,000. Like, what are you smoking? And literally, one guy, I had mad respect. I still have mad respect for the guy, but he started going off on people in like the red group, and I'm like, I corrected him, and it ended it right there, because I was just like, dude, like, I even currently, like, at this point, the only time I pop out my Komodo is a narrative piece, because as you said, when you have the time to craft the scene and do everything, the red will shine above everything else. But there's all that time to have to craft the scene. And the only types of work I do that you have that kind of time is narrative production. Because everything else, there's always some kind of like heavier deadline. A lot of things that just have to move a lot quicker than a narrative. Where a narrative, you kind of have your day scheduled out. Do you always make your day? No, but like that's what you have your first and second AD for. They're there to make sure you're on your day. And so kind of like what your time is, where you can set up. And that's where I like the Komodo for that. But like on a wedding, I don't have setup time. I've used the Komodo to shoot 3 weddings. The only one that I felt comfortable doing on the Komodo was the one that it was a good friend of mine. And I felt like he didn't care if I took my time as long as I communicated. The other ones, every time I'm going through like halfway through the day, I'm like, screw this. I'm grabbing my mirrorless camera and I'm finishing the rest of the day on this because I just cannot do this on the Komodo. But yes, it's the right tool for the right job. A lot of people, the tangent is a lot of people are giving advice based on what they primarily work in. And because that's their life on video, they're not thinking about like what other people are doing for video. Like they're not thinking about giving advice about narrative production when like someone does all YouTube. Your experience, although it's helpful, isn't exactly like what this content creator who's making YouTube videos or TikTok videos is exactly doing. So you may not be helping them, trying to tell them, go buy this camera, go buy this. No, like maybe they are the type of person who should be buying these Meta glasses for their content because it'll help them more than a red camera or whatever it may be.
Absolutely. And yeah, look, I would never suggest, shooting those sort of narrative projects. I think in certain situations, those mirrorless cameras are going to work for that type of thing, depending on your budget, depending on the size of the production. But also equally, if you have the option to use real cinema cameras, that is ultimately where you're going to get the best result, provided you have the right team around and sort of other resources like lighting, etc. To do that. We're still not quite at the point where we should be all just throwing our cinema cameras. But
they still have some use.
One day it may be a lot closer than it is now.
And I think Blackmagic is kind of bridging that gap right now because they're getting autofocus in their cameras. It's honestly, I'm going to tell you guys, it's not that good right now, even with the best, most expensive autofocus lenses, but it's a start. And look, Sony and Canon and Lumix, they've had cameras that could autofocus for many years. And at least from Sony and from Canon, their autofocus only became usable for professional productions in the year 2020. And they had autofocus for many, many years. So, like we're going to see other companies as they start doing autofocus like Blackmagic. And maybe as we start seeing, stuff like this, if we're going to see bigger sensors and stuff like this, we have to have autofocus. It's non-negotiable. With a bigger sensor, you need autofocus. It's why, we're not seeing a lot of people don't understand why we're not seeing 1-inch sensor action cams, and why Insta360 is really the only one who has one. Sony did one, but there's a real reason, and it's because those cameras, you either close focus or you far focus. There's no like, oh, you're in between, let me like autofocus on you right where you are. There's no middle ground. And until we can get there with this, we're stuck with smaller sensors in this stuff. But as these companies work everything out, like we will get there. The technology is getting there. So I'm excited to see maybe the one day. I don't think we'd ever see a full frame sensor in these, but like an action cam sensor, that would be
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, anyways, Guy, we had one question that was unrelated, so I was leaving it until the end here. Robbie says, hey guys, sorry for an off-topic question here. I'm looking to get a new MacBook for video editing, 4K from a Sony a6100, 15 to 30 minute long videos with A/B roll, transitions, titles. What do you think? Well, my answer to you would be, luckily for you, that's not a super intensive codec. So it's really in this point in 2025, if you're looking at a MacBook, it's whatever MacBook you can afford. For anybody who's watching this after this new cheap MacBook comes out in a few weeks, except for that one, don't think about that one. The one that has there's a new MacBook coming out that's going to be like $600, and it's going to have the same chip in it that the phones have. That's probably not going to be good for editing, but like MacBook Air base model and upwards, all those, if you're using an A6100, the type of codec it has, it's not hard on any current M4 computer whatsoever. So, get what you can afford.
Yeah. Maybe just to add to that though, I would get at least 16 gigs of unified memory with that MacBook.
So I didn't mention that because they all come with 16 now.
Are they all 16 now? Okay.
Yes, they changed all their computers now to where they all come with 16. What they still do, which is kind of an issue, is they still have 256 gigs of internal storage. And I literally just filmed my 6 months with the MacBook Air video today, because that was my big after having it for 6 months, the storage ended up being was ultimately going to be the death of me using that computer. I used it pretty much on a daily basis, the base model, bottom of the barrel. I got it after my love of the M4 Mac Mini. I used it. I brought it on tons of trips. I've used it for video editing, everything. Not because I needed it, but because I loved how small the computer was. And I had to be glued to an SSD at all times. If you're the type of person who doesn't care about that and you want to save money and get the base model, more power to you. You're still going to have to spend money to go get an SSD. My one advice is, if you're going for a MacBook Air and you're going to do video editing, you're not following the path of 99% of people out there that don't do video editing. If you're going to do that, the base amount of RAM is fine. It comes with 16. Upgrade your SSD. Get at least 512 gigs. It's the convenience when you have a laptop that small to be able to just use it as a laptop and not have stuff plugged into it. I really underestimated that. And 6 months later, it's what's causing me. I'm going to end up selling my M4 MacBook Air, and I'm going to go back to using my M3 Pro MacBook Pro, because I've got a terabyte of storage in there. And that's just what I'm going to use for now as my everyday computer, because I messed up. I will own it. I wanted to test the base model, and look, it worked really well for 6 months, but that having an SSD glued to me at all times really got to me, and I just don't want to keep doing it anymore. So that would be my advice. Maybe don't get the base amount of storage.
Yeah,
but it'll handle it.
Had exactly the same issue butting up against. I was always just trying to, because I think something we should make a note of is, like, I don't know about you, but like my apps alone are almost like, probably 200 gig or something like that. Just all the stuff
if I didn't memory
over.
One thing I'll tell you with that is I memory manage, unfortunately. Right. So I wouldn't have to memory manage if I had that. But sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was, even when I was using the 500 gig option, just to save money, as you and external SSDs, I still always just creeping towards the upper end of that. I think in today's world, you really need 512 as a minimum, but
as a minimum,
in a perfect world, 1 terabyte will kind of not have you have all those breathing issues with it. But yeah, man, sure. Great. Highly recommend those. I'm a all Mac user as well.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I mean, if you can go 1 terabyte, do it. The reason I'm not pushing that on the M4 Air is I understand, like, when you're going to 1 terabyte on a MacBook Pro, it's only one step up. It's only one small upgrade to go to 1 terabyte, because it comes with a base of 512. But since the MacBook Air doesn't, you are then spending $400 to go to 1 terabyte. And you may actually have to spend more, because they may make you do then the next RAM upgrade too, depending on where you buy it from. If you buy it direct from Apple, you may not have to, but regardless, to go to 1 terabyte, you're spending a minimum of $400. And it's just a lot. Then at that point, if you're buying if you were looking at a base model MacBook Air for $800 on Amazon, and then you had to go then spend $400, that's like half the price of the computer just for storage. So I get why a lot of you are looking at the base model. And so as someone who's used the base model now for 6 months, I'm just kind of giving you my hard, honest. That video will be out later this week. I get into it. I get into all the nitty gritty because there's parts about the MacBook Air I love. And if I didn't get the base model and I got at least 512 gigabytes of RAM, I absolutely would have sold my MacBook Pro and just ran with the M4 MacBook Air because of how small it is and how easy it is to charge and the power consumption on that thing. You can get a small little 30-watt charger that's like smaller than my wallet. Trying to think, smaller than this, and it charges your computer like fully, and you could use it fully and edit videos and everything. So there's a lot of cool pluses to it. So the good news is for anyone who's just getting into this or you're on a budget, we're at a time where if you're in the Apple ecosystem, you're no longer having to, get a MacBook Pro as your bare minimum to be able to edit video. You can get the base level computers and they could do it. There's always going to be sacrifices when you're trying to cheap out. And I hate to say it like that, but it's just kind of like how it is.
Yeah, 100%.
But anyways, I know we went right off there. That's why I saved this one for the end. So Guy, thank you so much for joining me today, waking up early to do this. It's been a very interesting conversation about these metas. And I know like we're kind of just getting started. Like there's going to be so much more that comes out over the next year for these. I'm excited to see what the future of using these things on set are.
Yeah, me too. I just think it's maybe not enough filmmakers are sort of aware of them or thinking about using them in that capacity, but they are actually will be very, very useful, sort of on set for that BTS work and really getting interesting stuff that you might otherwise not. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you all for joining me today. I know this was an impromptu live stream. I only put this up last night. If you guys want to stay tuned, see more content like this, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. And if you guys want to check out Guy's channel, I have a link to his channel below, The Savage Filmmaker. Guy, thank you so much again for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, and it's been a great chat.
Yeah, anytime. I will catch you all in the next video as soon as I can find this outro banner. That's the beauty of doing this live. Bye, guys.